Now 11 o'clock. Shall
Ah,
we start?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can start.
A warm good morning to all. Thank you for finding time and visiting today's webinar. I'm Nayana, Assistant Professor, Department of CSC. Our today's topic is Rejuvenating Higher Education through NEP 2020, and the speaker is Dr. D.H. Rao, ex-Dean Academics, VTU. I request our director to welcome the speaker and the participants.
Good morning to all of you. Greetings from Sridevi Institute of Technology. I have great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar, Rejuvenating Higher Education through NEP 2020. Sridevi Institute of Technology is a unit of Sridevi Education Trust, Mangalore. Our college started in the year 2006. We have six UG programs: BE in Computer Science and Engineering, Information Science and Engineering, Aeronautical Engineering, Electronics and Communication Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, and Civil Engineering. Under PG, we have MBA, MCA, and MTech in Construction Technology, PhD program in various departments. We have very good infrastructure and dedicated faculty members. Our college received Excellent Engineering College in Karnataka Award by VTU and CAE New Delhi in the year 2016. At the outset, I congratulate the organizers of this webinar. A man behind all the activities of our college is none other than our beloved principal, Dr. Dilip Kumar. On behalf of all, I wholeheartedly welcome our dynamic principal, Dr. Dilip Kumar K, to this webinar. All are eagerly waiting to hear talk from today's resource person and my friend, my well-wisher, Dr. D.H. Rao, former Dean, VTU. I extend warm welcome to Dr. D.H. Rao. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you,
I,
sir. Thank you.
I welcome the convener of this webinar, Dr. Netravati, Head of MC and Placement Department, and Staff Coordinator, Professor Naina Yadav, Assistant Professor, CSC Department. I extend my warm welcome to all HODs, faculty members, and system admin of Sridevi Institute of Technology. Last but not the least, you, my dear participants. I wholeheartedly welcome all my dear participants to this webinar. I welcome one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. D.H. Rao obtained BE degree in electronics from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore, and ME from Madras University. He obtained MS and PhD from the University of Saskatoon, Canada in 1990 and 1994 respectively. His area of research are neural networks, artificial intelligence, and robotics. He edited a book on neurocontrol system published by IEEE USA in 1994. He has a rich experience of 41 years as professor, principal, dean, and director. He pursued his academic pursuits by obtaining EMBA in 2007 and PhD in HR from Virginia University in USA in 2009. He has guided 13 PhD students and has published more than 150 papers in national and international conferences and journal in the area of neural networks, fuzzy logic, cryptography, e-learning, stress management, and HR. He has chaired and has given many invited talks in national and international conferences. He has co authored a book on tips for international air travel in 2008. He is a senior member of Academic Senate, VTU, member of Executive Council, VTU, member of Postgraduate Board of National Institute of Technology, NITK Suratkal, member of Recruitment Committee, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Maharashtra, member of Goa Public Service Commission. His awards and achievements are recipient of Distinguished Engineer awarded by Institute of Engineers India in 2001, winner of Sir Dr. M. Sir Sir M. Vishweshwaraya National Suvarna Award 2002. Certified Dal Karnik High Impact Teaching Skill. Certified De Bonos USA 6 Thinking Hats. Certified NLP Practitioner. Certified Psychometric Trainer. He was a Dean, Faculty of Engineering in Karnataka University, Dharwad for 6 years. Dean of Engineering, VTU, Belgaum. Dr. Rao was an external assessor for Glasgow Caledonian University, Scotland, UK, and Muscat. He has conducted more than 100 workshops in the area of personality development, stress management, how to conduct effective meetings, NLP, Bloom's taxonomy, outcome based education in India, abroad. He is a director of Cambridge Group of Institution, Bangalore. Recently, he has been nominated as Margadarshak by AICT Delhi to help Engineering and Management College for accreditation process. Sir, we are glad to have you with us today. So, before we start with the session, I request all the participants to kindly mute your mic and turn off your video and not to share your screen. If you have any questions, you can ask during the QA session after the webinar. Feedback link for the webinar will be shared at the end of this session. I request all of you to kindly fill the same. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. And at the very outset, I thank the director, Dr. Prakash, and the principal and all the Sridevi Institute of Technology Management for having given me this opportunity to talk on National Education Policy 2010. May I now request to start my presentation? We can switch out the video part to save bandwidth. You can start, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir,
Hello.
visible?
Where are you doing?
Sir, visible?
Yes. Can you go to the first one, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, madam. Can you
Yes.
start my presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, you can start, sir.
No, my presentation I'm not able to see, madam.
Now, sir.
No, not yet.
Is it visible, sir?
No, madam, the welcome address is being seen, not my PPT.
1 second, sir. Now, sir.
Not yet. Maybe coming. No, not yet.
Is it visible, sir?
No, madam, no. Not yet.
Now, sir.
Coming up. Yeah,
Yeah.
coming up.
Okay.
Just yes. Now we
Okay.
can go to PPT mode.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Can I start now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good morning to all of you. Sorry. The topic of today's discussion is rejuvenating higher education based on the National Education Policy 2020. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Yes. The foundation. Yes, madam. Next. This one. Yes, stop there. The foundation for NEP, right, is based on our, Swami Vivekananda's philosophy on education. Education should be holistic and man-making, life-giving, and character-building. Also, he says education can unlock all the doors for a progress. A nation advances in proportion to education and intelligence spread among the masses. Based on the basic premise, what Swami Vivekananda had said centuries ago, right, is the basis for a foundation for the new education policy of our country. Next one, please. Next slide. Then why anything? Why is it necessary? So this is a very important question to be asked, right? Because many people do ask of our age, why is it necessary? Next one, please. So to answer this question, next one, yes, next, please, yeah, plus, once again. So yeah, stop there. Now there are two notable observations from the Supreme Court of India some time ago, a couple of years ago. One, it says today's education failed to reform human behavior, and with increase in literacy level, there is a decline in human values in the society. Very, very, very important observation our Supreme Court of India had made, and hence it calls for transformation in our education system. As you all know, our education system has been following since my college days, right? The same system, and it is what the British Empire left as a legacy for us, and hence the transformation education system is highly imperative and prudent as well. Next one, please. The objectives of higher education. Yes, go on. Complete this slide. Yes, one. Plus. The objectives of higher education, as you all know, right, to supply the required manpower in tune with the national development plans. Our education cannot, and the national education of the national development plans of the country have to be synchronized. They cannot be mutually exclusive. They have to go hand in hand. To advance frontiers of knowledge by research, innovation, critical thinking, and product development. As you all know, that the research become extremely important right in the years to come. And because of this reason, many of our very good institutions in our country do not find right in the world ranking of 200, and hence the need of the hour is to go in for research, innovation, and the critical thinking. Right, it's extremely important amongst our students and faculty today to develop the youth sensitivity to environment and the societal needs. And you have been witnessing, right, such an environmental disaster, the catastrophe that we are going through. And hence, right, we are talking on online. We are not able to meet face to face, and because of the environmental disaster that the human beings have created. To develop entrepreneurial abilities and required skills among the youth. The skills are extremely important now, right? As you know, the students do get graduate from the portals of our institution. Many times they are found wanting, right, in the skills that the industries need, and hence there is a reformation required, transformation required in the way the skills are imparted to our students to make an economic impact and to contribute the growth of our GDP and to develop the national pride and the responsible citizens of our country. These are the main objectives of higher education. That said, madam, next slide please. Importance of, yes, one more happens. And importance of, no madam, previous, yes. Importance of sequencing in higher education. All of us are in higher education, right? You know, the teach BTech level, MTech, Masters, PhD, MCA, and so on. But we should know how at higher education, the methodology that we adopt, right, in our teaching learning is an extremely important point. So when you go to a class or when you strategize, right, at the policy level, right, the principals, directors, and the management level, we need to have these concepts very clear in our mind. One, the concept to strategic plan, governance policies to implementation, right, academic plans to physical infrastructure, quality assurance to accreditation. All these 4 points I have suggested here. Concept. I may have a good concept in teaching, and I need to have a clear plan as to how I am going to execute it. That's what I say here. Governance policies to implementation. The policies may be good at the college level, at the university level, at the state level, at the national level. Finally, the efficacy of the whole thing depends upon how those things are implemented. And supporting that, we have very good academic plans. It has properly supported by the physical infrastructure. Ultimately, right, what all they give provide our the education to our students now, there has to be a quality manifested in every activity that we do at the college level, and the quality assurance, and it has to be properly validated, right, by your accreditation board, what you call as National Board of Accreditation. Okay, next one. And difficulties, yes, yes. Go ahead, go ahead. Yes, stop there. And the difficulties in structuring a world-class university in India. What is the problem that we face? You know, Dr. Sam Suda, right, he was chairman of Knowledge Commission a few years ago. He mentions one point. We have a 19th century's mindset, 20th century's process for the 21st century needs. You know, many more often than not, we do find that we may change. Our institution may become autonomous, or may become an university. The board may change, the name may change, but until and unless the mindset of the faculty involved is not changed, then nothing is going to be changed. And hence our mindset of needs to be completely refurbished, and needs to be rethought. And our centuries process, same old system, archaic principles, that what the British people have, they all change, but we did not change. 75 years of our independence, 74 years of independence, and the need for the transformation education system has become much more imperative and mandatory these days, because the whole outside world, right, is changing very, very fast. And shortage of quality faculty and not well defined roles for the faculty. Sorry. See, the qualified faculty we may have, but the unfortunate part, particularly in our undergraduate teaching, not well defined roles for the faculty. The faculty, the staff member has to teach maybe 2 subjects or 3, has to take a few labs, conduct seminars to the students, guide a project. Above all that, he or she has to take care of the hostels, the cultural committees, the sports, so on and so forth. And it doesn't happen in these things in the outside world, right? In other universities, outside India, the roles are very well defined. But above all that, the management expects the teachers to do research. I'm not sure, right? How nobody gets time, right? To even think about doing research, forget about doing active research. Therefore, the not well-defined roles for the faculty, right, is one of the major bottlenecks, in my opinion, right, for the success of our education in our country. And political willingness to bring changes. Lots of committees have submitted reports, and this NDP is one of the best examples that we have today. A wonderful, work is being done by the great members, but ultimately it has to meet the reality. Capturing the global talent, more often than not, we are just restricted to our Indian, talent. And you see, the most of the wonderful universities outside India, Cambridge, it can be Cambridge, it can be MIT, Stanford, Oxford, name it, right? They have a global talent being attracted to them. And further, lack of inclusive and a participative culture, more so in private managements, right? It has been found wanting, more so in the pandemic the situation that we are in. It is very unfortunate that the private managements do take steps in cutting down the salary of the faculty, but at the same time they want their motivation to be as it was earlier. The simple fact that all of us are human beings anyway, but failing to understand the basic the needs of the human beings, of the faculty members, the management should do fair, right, in their duties, in their responsibilities, right, in meeting the requirements of the faculty, right, and highly complex, unclear regulatory framework at the central and the state levels. We have too many regulatory bodies, and meeting the requirements of itself goes the time for the principals, managements, the directors. They spend more time in sending the reports, compliance, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, government regulations, and always think that the private institutions, right, are meant only for the profit, and they should not make any profit out of this. And other concept that is normally opposed so far has been PPP model, public-private partnership model has not been implemented to my knowledge, at least in Indian scenario, but it is done in the outside world, outside India. Maybe next slide, man. Indian scenario of an university. Yes, complete. Yeah, go ahead. One more. Proceed, man. Yes, one. Go ahead. No, please. Yes. And the Indian scenario of an university is a lack of quality faculty, the talent transformation, political ranking. But we do observe these days many of the universities, Right? Many of the student strikes take place, and they take it university forum to launch there to take off for the political ambitions, which I feel should never happen. And, and our concept always has been that in the university level or the private university or autonomous institutions, private managements, whatever they may be, to do more with less. Give you less money, but do a lot of things. So here it's indicated only 0.7% of India's GDP is spent on higher education. It is a National Knowledge Commission submitted in 2009, no different as of now, which is much lower than in countries. The US is 2.9%, UK 1.3%, China is 1.5%. I'll come to the point later again. And the paralysis of governance, complex and conflict in resolutions, regulations, as I mentioned earlier, and too many regulatory bodies. And we have number of visits coming to our institutions, almost doing the same job, and the outcome right is not proportionate, is not commensurate with the efforts the colleges put in meeting the requirements of these regulatory bodies. The next one, please. Global Serena of an University. How the it is completed. One more plus. The Global Serena of an University. If you seen it outside, I had an opportunity of having my having studies outside India. I have seen how those universities work. They concentrate talent. Wherever the talent, irrespective of the qualifications, irrespective of the country, the race, the color, right? They invite them. And have abundant those resources. I have just given an example of Harvard University in USA. Please read it if you can. Harvard annual budget is about $4.2 billion. It was in 2013. Later I could not get the data. Even at 72 rupees a dollar, it is about 30,000 crores for university alone, Harvard University alone. While our India's India higher education outlay for 2018 was rupees 26,210 crores, which includes technical education, 9,000 crores of which 5,000 crores goes to IITs, 1,800 for NITs, and 730 crores for IIMs. I don't know how much remains here. And the Harvard University's annual budget, one university annual budget, is much more than the annual budget of our technical education in the whole of our country. It is the amount of the money that we put in for the purpose of the education. Okay. And the favorable governance. As I just mentioned earlier, our faculty are expected to do so many things at this teaching, invigilation, examination work, go for the evaluation, right, do the college activities. Above all that, they need to do research. Right, here certainly I feel there is a certain a paralysis of governance, right, in our institutions. Next one, please. And hence the need for NEP. What is the NEP? The National Education Policy, a new education policy. That NEP, it is a National Education Policy. It envisions what the vision is: India-centered education system. India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant and knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. Our education policy is focusing on India-centered education system. If you just go back in time, maybe 300, 500 years ago, little more, and we had wonderful universities in our country. Many foreign people students would come and study here. But over the years, we just lost, right, our quality for whatever may be the reason. And hence, our education policy, national education policy, right, focuses on India-centered education system, and that should contribute to transforming our nation. That is the youth, the students, right, and sustainably. It is not just for 1 year or 2 years. We should go on, and in the process create an equitable. It means to all the people, irrespective of their the strata of the society, the strata in the society, color, the caste, the religion. Everybody should get equal education and high quality to all of them. So this is the basic the vision of our national education policy. Next one, madam. So NAP 2020 has wonderful galaxy of people, right? They have put in years of and hard work, 24/7, I guess, that is formulating this a big dossier, a big document on national education policy. It is headed by Dr. Padma Bhushan, Dr. Kasturi Rangan, the ISRO chief earlier, Dr. Vasudha Kaman, Sri K.J. Alfonso, retired bureaucrat, Dr. Manjul Bhargav, a professor of mathematics at Princeton University. I may mention also that I guess he's the Infosys awardee also, that he got an award from Professors for wonderful research in mathematics, Dr. Ramchandra Breed, Dr. Vijay Katamani, the Vice Chancellor, T.M. Tripathi, the Chairperson of Uttar Pradesh in the Intermediate Examination Board, Dr. Mazhar Asif, Professor of Persian, Guwahati University, and we are very proud that we have Dr. M.K. Sridhar from Karnataka, right, member, Central Advisory Board of Education, member, Secretary of Karnataka Innovation Council and Karnataka Knowledge Commission. These 9 stars, right, of our country have formulated a new policy that we are all issuing it right into the next, in a couple of, maybe from this year onwards. So 2020, we will see a wonderful education policy being implemented in our country. Next slide. Coming to the point here. So the NEP, National Education Policy, has been documented in 4 parts. Part 1 is the school education, Part 2 is the higher education, Part 3 other key areas of focus, and Part 4 implementation part of it. Next one, madam. Yes, stop. It is basically 5 plus 3 plus 4 up to PhD. I am shown a kid and coming out on the stage to receive his or her PhD. So the NEP 2020 lays down a comprehensive structure that will impact every student right from the tiny tot going to his first place school at the age of 3 years to an ambitious master's graduate program leading to a PhD program. This is the NEP in brief. So I'll be focusing on the part 2 part of it. In that again a small part of it because of the time constraints. So I'll be just highlighting the higher education part of it. Next slide. So the NEP objective, yes, the NEP objective here to revamp the higher education, revamp the higher education, to increase and create world-class multidisciplinary higher education across the country and increase GER, gross enrollment ratio, I'll show it in the next slide, to at least 50%, right, by 2035. And the second objective is to build world-class universities and to achieve high global rankings. As you know, including your IITs, you do not come in the list of, I think, 200 top universities in the world. All countries like South Korea, Hong Kong, all those places do appear. Singapore, their universities appear, but unfortunately, we don't appear in the top list. Next one, please. Just to give one moment. Yeah, this one. Yeah, no. Go to the next. Okay, press one more. Okay, press. Sorry. Yeah. See what is basically GER, just to give an idea, is the gross enrollment ratio, in the sense that how many people register for or join the college divided by the number of people available in our country. Suppose the 100 people are eligible or available in that country of say 18 to 20 years. Out of 100, if only 20 people join for higher education, it is 20%. Hope you got the idea. So here I have mentioned here the enrollment ratio, right? The higher education GER. Madam, can you go to the previous slide? Previous? Okay, next. Okay, correct. Okay, next one. Yeah, one more. Bus. Thank you. And the higher education GER in the age group of 18 to 23 in India for the year 1890 is 26.3. It means if there are 26 per 1000 students available of that age group in our country, only 263 have registered, have gone for higher education. That's what it means there. 26.3. Okay, out of 100 people, 26.3. Or just to make it more realistic, I am saying for 1000 people, it is 263 people have gone for higher studies, the ratio, right, in 2018-19. Now, in second pair I have indicated, but the GER in India is on the increasing trend. It still lags when compared to the other countries. It was earlier 24, then it became 26 and so on. But now, in the age group of higher education, normally in the international world, internationally, it is taken as 18 to 22 years. In India, we take it as 18 to 23. If we take 18 to 22 years internationally, when we calculate as per the international standard, the GER for India would be around 35, a little more. While it is higher than in Pakistan 9, Bangladesh 21, and it is comparatively less compared to other countries like China 51. It means 51% of the people go for higher studies. Look at South Korea, 94%. 94% who are eligible for higher education go for higher studies. Malaysia, 45 countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Iran, all small countries. Global ESS higher education GR in UK, GR is in USA is 88, UK is 60, Germany is 70, and Canada is 69, and we stand at 26.3. Therefore, next slide. The the objective yes, stop there. Therefore, the one of the objectives that I showed you for NEP, National Education Policy, is to increase this GR to 50%. Right? I hope all of you got the point. Now, focusing on NEP only on higher education. Next one, slide. Next slide, please. Yes. Stop there, madam. Higher education. New architecture has been thought of. A new vision and architecture for higher education has been emphasized with large, well-resourced, vibrant, multidisciplinary institutions. Sorry. The multidisciplinary institution is to be underlined. All of us should understand this word, and I'll explain it more again. The current 800 universities and 40,000 colleges will be consolidated into about 15,000 excellent institutions only, that of multidisciplinary nature. Next one, just next. Next one. And liberal education, a broad-based liberal arts education at undergraduate level for integrated, rigorous exposure to science, arts, humanities, that is STEM, like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, along with arts. Professional field will be put in place. They should have imaginative and flexible curricular structures, creative combinations of study, and so on. And multiple entry and multiple exit scheme. I'll tell you more on that. Taking on vocational courses. Madam, next. Next one, please. Governance, yes. Press all of it. The institutional governance is based on autonomy, academic, administrative, and financial. Each higher education will be governed by an independent board. To be underlined. I'll again emphasize this point at in the end of my presentation. Regulations. Regulations should be light but tight to ensure financial probity. Probity means honesty and public spiritedness, standard setting, and so on. So here the word light but tight. This is to be a little more to be understood properly. I hope as the time goes by, the NEP will throw more light on this. What exactly mean by light but tight? And the teacher education has been given a lot of importance. Teacher preparation programs should be rigorous and will take place in a vibrant multidisciplinary higher education institution. The 4-year integrated state-specific, subject-specific Bachelor of Education offered at multidisciplinary institutions would be the predominant way of becoming a teacher. Substandard, dysfunctional teacher education institutions will be shut down. And here the point is the teacher education, as very clearly mentioned, multidisciplinary institutions. Now, maybe in another few slides I'll be showing the institutions which are teaching only technical will not be allowed further. They have to have multidisciplinary courses, and hence, as teachers, not only should restrict to your own area, also you should get into the other areas, so you become a multidisciplinary teacher as well. And professional education, all professional education will be an integral part of higher education system. Standalone is a very important point to be noted, please. Standalone technical universities, health science universities, legal and agricultural universities are the institutions in these or other areas. Madam,
It's,
I lost presentation.
it's there, sir.
I lost presentation.
It's sharing, sir.
No, I'm not able to see, madam. I'm not able to see.
Now, sir.
No, not yet.
Shall I share it once again, sir?
Yeah, please.
Is it visible, sir?
Coming up, coming up. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes. And please note that all professional education will be an integral part of higher education. Standalone technical universities, like you have maybe I can mention that our video is called Visleshaya Technological University. We offer only engineering and management, right? It's not a multidisciplinary act. Therefore, he says of institutions or these will be discontinued. Next one, madam. Next slide. Yes. Therefore, all will be of multidisciplinary areas. And we stop there, madam. We stop. So, the new institutional architecture, I'm just expanding what I said earlier. They revamp the higher education system, create world-class institutions across the country, increase the GER, gross enrollment ratio, to 50%. Now, the present is about 27 by 2035. A new vision and architecture of higher education has been emphasized with large, well-resourced institutions. As I told you, 40 colleges, 8,000 universities, 40,000 colleges will be consolidated into 15,000 excellent institutions. How? Next. This new higher education architecture shall create large, well-resourced, vibrant, and autonomous multidisciplinary institutions. Autonomous for teaching and research, significantly expanding reach capable capacity while building strong education communities. All higher education institutions will become multidisciplinary institutions. Please underline that will become multidisciplinary. You cannot be simply teaching engineering. You cannot be simply teaching medicine, right? Like it's just the same concept of the Western universities. You go to like the university where I did my PhD, we had a medical college, you have engineering, of course, you have agriculture, pharmacy, everything we have. Okay? So on the same lines. Next one line, next madam. Next, press next. Yeah, stop there. See, there will be three types of institutions. So please note this is very important for all of us. Type 1, which focus on world-class research and high-quality teaching across all disciplines. Focus on world-class research and high-quality teaching. Okay? And the type 2, which focus on high-quality teaching across all disciplines with a significant contribution to research. Please see the type 1, world-class research. Research now comes first. Here type 2, quality teaching, that comes first. Okay, research second. And type 3, which focus on high quality teaching across all disciplines, focusing on undergraduate education. So, research institution, teaching and research, and teaching. Okay, this restructuring will be done systematically and throughout by consolidating existing institutions and building new ones. Mission Nalanda and Mission Takashila will be launched, and similar, a few phase-setting institutions, the Indian Institutes of Liberal Arts, on the same lines as our IITs will be established. All institutions, please see this again. All institutions will be either universities or degree granting autonomous colleges. Particularly, colleges of yours, university here, right? There will not be any more affiliating concept to any university. All of us should become either universities or degree granting autonomous colleges. Alright, please understand. Yeah, next one. There will be substantial public investment and all that. Developing disadvantaged, backward areas, more focus on that, and including all encompass all the fields. Yeah, next one. Focus on high quality liberal education. The objective here is move towards a more imaginative, broad-based liberal education as a foundation for holistic development of students. Holistic means the overall growth, not only in your area, but also they should be in all the areas as such. Their skills, right? Their communication skills, attitude, analytical, logical, all of them put together is basically a holistic development. With rigorous specialization in chosen, rigorous specialization in chosen discipline. For example, a student chooses engineering, maybe computer science, he will have more courses. Along with that, he can also take some courses in connect with us, maybe music, maybe some other art, like the students are able to take. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah, next one. Next on. Yeah. Here, yeah, all undergraduate programs should be characterized by a liberal education approach. Okay, for the holistic development. What is called as the liberal education, and here broad multidisciplinary exposure, as I was mentioning to you, right? It will be a disciplinary education, not just only computer engineering or mechanical. The students should have or shall have the opportunity to take up other courses also, other liberal arts courses also. So this will be the approach at the undergraduate level across all disciplines. programs and fields, including professional and vocational fields. Okay. If a computer science student wants to take a course in, for example, in MBA finance, yes, he should be allowed. A civil engineering student wants to take a course in AI, yes, there must be an opportunity. Okay. Yes, next one, please. Next one, next. Go on. Next one. The center will set up 10 institutes of liberal arts, as I mentioned earlier, right, based on lines of IITs. Okay. More details are required here. Imagine it on flexible curriculum structures. So the lot of opportunity will be given even for the faculty to come up with their own courses, and also it offers multiple useful exit and entry points. If Dr. Prakash would know that better than I do, right? In V2 it was planned to have multiple exit scheme after 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years. Okay, this input has been taken here. So graduate or master's or doctoral level education will provide rigorous research-based specialization. I'll tell you a little more on that detail. The undergraduate degrees may be of 3 years or 4 years education. Institutes may offer multiple exit options within this period with appropriate certification. An advanced diploma in a discipline or a field, including vocational or professional, after completing 2 years of study, or a certificate after completing 1 year. Okay, so this is a multiple exit. A student cannot go to second year for whatever may be the reason. The student should not go empty-handed. Okay, he will be getting one certificate program for in the course that he has done. The 4 year program will provide students the opportunity to experience the full range of liberal education. This will be called a Bachelor of Liberal Arts. Next one, madam. In more major areas, the 3 year program will lead to bachelor's degree. Both programs may lead to degree with honors. Now, this is a very significant change. We used to have it. Dr. Prakash, maybe way back in 70s, we used to have like BA honors, BSc honors, and all that. Subsequently, it was removed. Now again, it is reintroduced. If the student gets, say, for example, B honors, the benchmark and all that, some of them are being defined, some of them will be coming up. Okay? Or what do you exactly mean by B with honors? So, if the B honors, right, also can get in the 4 years itself. And certain professional streams, teacher education, engineering, medicine, law, may only have 4 year duration or more for the undergraduate program. How it is more, it is mentioned here. Institutions will have the flexibility to offer different designs or master's programs. There may be a 2 year program, MTech I'm talking about, or master's program. The second year devoted completely for research. 1 year could be coursework, the second could be research. For those who have completed a 3 year undergraduate program, there may be an integrated 5 year master's program for 3 year program people, and students completing 4 year undergraduate program, there could be 1 year master's program. There could be 1 year master's program for students with honors degree only. Undertaking PhD shall require either a master's degree or or a 4 year undergraduate degree with honors. A 4 year undergraduate degree honors can directly go to PhD without doing masters. And another subsequent change, important change is the MPhil program, which has been there in vogue now, shall be discontinued. Okay, next one. Yes, ma'am. Go on. Creating conducive learning environment, ensure a joyful, rigorous, and responsive curriculum. Is a very, very important word here. Responsive curriculum is one where our system, our curriculum, our syllabus, everything needs to respond to the changes right in the outside world. Right, if changes take place, for example, now AI, data analytics are very, very important topics. Then they should be taken into our consideration, right, in our formulating our syllabus, in our curriculum. Therefore, this is called as responsive curriculum. Engaging and effective pedagogy, right, teaching and learning, and caring support to optimize learning, the overall development of students. So, this is written here. The curriculum of pedagogy in higher education will move away from the rote learning. The rote learning, all of you know Bloom's taxonomy. By and large, we focus on the L1 level, memorizing, rote learning, by hearting. We need to go much, much higher. Now L4, L5, and L6 if possible. So, instead of the rote learning, and to contribute both as active citizens of the democracy and successful professionals in any field. The development of vibrant and rigorous curriculum will be guided by National Higher Education Qualification Framework, and there are, there's a few boards will be established One of them is this NHEQ, where they will how the operation process is yet to be clear. Right? Each institution should send a syllabus to them, the curriculum for approval. These things are not very clear yet. This framework will be aligned with the National Skill Qualifications Framework. Very important one. All of us know OBE, right? We should know what are the skills our engineers should get. If a student is coming out as a mechanical engineer, we should know in advance as to what a mechanical engineer ought to have the skills by the time he graduates from the portals of our institution. So the national skill qualifications will be giving to all of us what are the attributes that the student and graduate should have. Okay, based on that, our complete curriculum has to be revamped. And CBCS, choice-based credit system, has been existing now in a very partial manner. It is more of a credit system rather than a choice-based even today, I guess. It will be revised and improved. Stimulating learning experiences will be offered for effective pedagogical practices, will be offered meaningful opportunities. Yes, madam, next. Next, madam, next. And academic and financial support will be given to the students, and more emphasis is given on open and distance learning, right? Then MOOCs and so on and so forth. The CP, our GER, goes to 50%. For any reason, a student is not able to enroll physically into a college or university, he or she should be given an opportunity to go on distance learning, so that our GER goes up to 50%. One point may be remembered here: many of the countries where the GR is very high, there the distance learning is allowed and it's taken into consideration. And in our country, it is not taken into consideration, and hence our GR is low. Okay. And another important point is internationalization of education. It will be facilitated through both institutional collaborations and the universities outside. Okay. The next one. Energize and engage capable faculty. Yes. They engage empowered faculty with high competence, deep commitment, energized for excellence in teaching research. Every institution, right, will have adequate faculty, and only one point to be cleared here is they say desirable student teacher ratio is not more than 30:1. I'm not sure how this will bring quality, but nevertheless it is mentioned. I'm just putting both the facts in front of you. And the prevalent approach of ad hoc contractual appointments will be immediately stopped. Okay, there is no add-on. They have to be all right, permanent faculty. Faculty recruitment will be based on academic experience, teaching practices, and all that. And appropriately designed permanent employee track, tenure track. This word tenure track is again a Western word. It is followed in the Western universities. There is nothing like a temporary contractual faculty. The faculty have to be made permanent by our institutions, and this will be fully functional in all the institutions, including private institutions, by 2030. In just about a decade time, this will be implemented. This ought to be implemented. Faculty will be empowered to make curricular changes and other courses, because all of you will be working in the either universities or in autonomous institutions. There is nothing like affiliation anymore, and hence you will have a choice to change the syllabus with the approval of the boards and all that. Okay. 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 Next one, madam. Empowered governance of the economy. The same. One point is a very, very important one here. Independent, self-governed higher education institutions with capable and ethical leadership. If you see the A part of it, higher education institutions will be governed by independent boards with a complete academic and administrative autonomy. The formation of and appointment of these boards, the chair and the vice chancellor, director, chief executive, will ensure elimination of external interference, including from the government, as enable it. It says it's too good to believe right now. The same, let us accept in all spirit. I hope it will be done. B part, all higher educations will become autonomous, self-governing entities, and the practice of affiliation will be stopped. Affiliated colleges will be supported to develop into autonomous degree granting colleges, and affiliating universities will develop into vibrant multidisciplinary institutions. As you have the affiliating universities like VTU, Rajiv Gandhi universities, and all that, they may become defunct, and they have to develop into a multidisciplinary, not just engineering, but other courses also they need to offer. Public and private institutions as has been existing now, and autonomy will be ingrained in the system. So the autonomy will become the buzzword right in the education policy. The next one, please. Transformation of the regulatory system, very very important one, right? The effective enabling and responsive regulation, responsive education regulation to encourage excellence and public spiritedness in higher education. The functions of the standard setting, funding, accreditation, right? All that will be done, and it will be under the tutelage of national higher education regulatory authorities, right? So they will have again one authority. It is thought it is there is a strong saying that both EGs and AIs will be merged into one. The current University Grants Commission will transform to the Higher Education Grants Council. Okay, there may not be UGC and AIC anymore. The General Education Council will be set up, right? Will develop national higher education qualifications framework, as I mentioned earlier, to define, this is very important, to define the graduate attributes, that is expected learning outcomes of our higher education. If a student takes, say, an engineering and civil engineering, for example, what are the attributes that civil engineer should have by the time he graduates, right, from the portals of our institution? And accreditation on basic parameters will form the basis. I think this will continue as we have right now, maybe with more modifications. There will be a common regulatory regime for public and private higher education institutions. As mentioned earlier, national higher education will regulate all the public and the private universities and institutions. And state departments of higher education will be involved at the policy level. State Council of Higher Education will facilitate peer support and best practice sharing. All that, the exchange of ideas, good practices will be shared between the universities. Yes, next one. Next one, please. Reintegrating professional education. Next. Into higher education, revitalizing professional education. To build a holistic approach to the preparation of professionals by imaginative, broad-based competencies and 21st century skills and understanding of the social human concept and a strong ethical compass in addition to the highest quality professional capacities. Very, very ambitious one. I'm sure with all the support we can achieve this. Preparation of professionals must involve an education in ethics and importance of public purpose, an education in discipline, education for practice. For this to happen, professional education must not happen in isolation. A part is very important for all of us. We say this: professional education will be an integral part of the overall higher education. The practice of setting up standalone technical universities, health science universities, legal and agricultural universities or institutions in these areas or other fields will be discontinued. There won't be any just technical university alone. There will not be any just health university alone. There have to be the universities of multidisciplinary. All institutions offering either professional or general education must organically evolve into institutions offering both, means like arts, liberal arts, and professional courses seamlessly by 2030, and be part for agricultural education. Right, next one, please. Education technology, very important concept again here. Appropriate integration of technology to all levels of education to support teacher preparation and development, improve our teaching learning, evaluation processes, enhance educational access to disadvantaged groups, and streamline education planning, administration management. Here again, right, is mentioned very clearly. This policy aims to see that technology is appropriately integrated into all levels of education. See, improving our teaching learning, evaluation process, supporting the preparation of teachers and their continuous professional development, enhancing educational access to disadvantaged groups, streamlining educational planning. So the National Education Technology Forum will try to focus to embed, right, all the technology innovations into our teaching. This is an autonomous body. National Education Technology Forum will be an autonomous body to give training and also the recent advances in technology to be embedded right in our education process. Yeah, okay. Yes, next one. And vocational education is given a lot of importance. Here at this point, instead of going through all the details, right, the vocation basically is on the national skills and it will be integrated in our education system. And all the, there's good opportunity for many engineering colleges to become more, entrepreneurs, because we have already the workshops and all that. We can create vocational courses right, for teachers. The teachers have to be trained at the school level because I didn't touch the school level education. It is envisaged that at the sixth, at the school itself, programming, then all that will be taught. Therefore, there is a very vast opportunity for engineering colleges to make use of this and start vocational instructional courses for the teachers, right? Programming, carpentry, or any of the skills that your college can provide. So the vocational training will be given very rigorously at the undergraduate level, and it is expected that the capacity building to GR of 50% of enrollment by 2030 or 35 through vocational training also. It's called a local Vidya, right? Okay, next one. Next one, please. Just hold on, man. Just go back. Just go back there. One more. Press there. Bus. Stop there. In every epoch of humankind, epoch means one era. Okay, years, okay, right? One learning cycle is called an epoch. In every epoch of humankind, knowledge represents the sum of what is created by all our previous generations. What the knowledge that we have, it is a continuum, right? The knowledge gets added up, to which the present generation adds its own. Now our generation, what you are saying right now, maybe the wonderful invention, discovery of internet, right? Data analytics, AI, and so on and so forth are getting added to the existing knowledge. And that's what they say here. In every epoch of humankind, knowledge represents the sum of what is created by all the previous generations. Like mathematics has been there since thousands of years. Right? To which the present generation has its own. Next one. This is a beautiful one. Next one. And next one, please. Yeah, stop there. Please see here the motive of the Mobius strip. The motive, basically the meaning is a theme. Okay, a symbol with a theme. Okay, a symbol with a theme is called a motive. Like an objective with a theme. See here, the motive of the Mobius strip. Mobius is the name of the person. He is a German mathematician. He first gave this concept of creating a symbol with a theme. Okay. So here it says the motive of the Mobius strip. What I have shown here in the diagram is the Mobius strip. Okay, you can see the three colors, and it has no beginning and no end. So here it says the motive of the Mobius strip symbolizes the perpetual. The knowledge is perpetual. Okay, developing and the life nature of knowledge. Life nature, it means the knowledge keeps adding up. It's very dynamic. At no point of time in the history of the world, of the universe, cosmos, knowledge can never be stopped. There is nothing like a pause button for knowledge. Therefore, the knowledge is a continuum. Therefore, here we say that the motive, that is the symbol with a purpose of the Mobius strip. Mobius is German mathematician who gave this concept, that where it indicates in the symbol itself, it indicates no end and no beginning. The perpetual, developing, and the life nature of knowledge, that which has no beginning and that which has no end. Okay, next one, man. Yes, madam. Yes. So the policy, the national education policy, the new education policy of our country envisages creation of knowledge, transmission of knowledge, use of knowledge, and a dissemination of knowledge as a part of this continuum. Continuum, the word means basically is that one meets the another. Continuous is different, the continuum is different. So the continuum is basically like a passing on the baton, right? Like a cocoa, right? Give a cocoa, the next person moves. Therefore, the knowledge is a continuum. At no point of time, as I mentioned earlier, in the history of our time, the knowledge has been stopped. Therefore, this is what our NEP has focused on. When you see any NEP document or go to website and all that, this symbol, what I call the motif of the Mobius symbol, has a lot of significance. Our NEP committee has done a wonderful job in taking it up, in representing the knowledge is always a live nature, right? It's always dynamic. This is the hard facts of the NEP, what I have given so far. Some of the thoughts to ponder about. Next one now. So, go on, madam. Go on. See this. See, this is my concept. This I have written. So the 360 degree of NEP or national education outcomes, right? With all the what you go through when you implement it, all the students, our students should get the fundamental principles of the domain area, should be able to communicate effectively, that is skills, acquisition of technical competence in areas of discipline, the ability to identify, formulate, and find the solutions, the problem solving, conduct investigation and research, very important now. The sixth one, sustainability and cost effectiveness, that's called frugality. Frugal, right? That is cost effectiveness in design and development of solutions, understanding and commitment to professional and ethical responsibilities, and ability to work effectively as an individual and as a member or a leader in a team, ability to be a multi-skilled person. That's what I've been emphasizing. Our colleges, universities will be of multidisciplinary in nature. Okay, not only engineering, you need to add some more right to them to make them multidisciplinary. Awareness of social, cultural, global, and environmental responsibilities on each and every individual on this in our country. Finally, capability and enthusiasm for self-improvement through continuous professional development, lifelong learning. This is my concept. This is what I have understood from going through the document, the dossier of NEP. Okay, this is my approach, my view. Okay, next. So this needs a holistic education because the word holistic education, next one, madam. The word holistic is used very exhaustively, right, in throughout the NEP document. Next one, madam. The holistic definition basically is the idea to combine all of them together. See the second paragraph, right? This often includes the view that the systems function as a whole, and their functioning cannot be fully understood solely in terms of the component part of it. In the sense that, right, you should take it in totality, not in isolation. All of them has to be put together and look from a holistic approach, means from the bird's eye view approach, right? From the perspective of the education. Therefore, when you say a holistic approach, as our NEP focuses on, it is not just an engineering alone. We need to provide them right with other skills as well. It is written in our Vedas and all that. There are 64 kalas, I believe. Right, Lord Krishna had all of them, I believe. So at least some of the kalas you have to take them up and put them in practice. It is put in the modern term as empowering our students with more skills. That's what the holistic education means. Next one, madam. I give a little more definition on this. Next one, ma'am. Next one, please. Yeah, go on. So the holistic education basically is a transformative approach. The idea for a transformative, completely different, where the student enters our institution after 4 years, there must be a transformation in his approach, in his attitude, in his skills, in his knowledge. Okay, and the holistic education focus on fullest possible development of the student in all the ways. 360 degrees. And what distinguishes holistic education from other forms of education is attention to experiential learning. The student should experience what has been taught. That is the basic concept of holistic education. Yeah, next one. Let me go a little faster. So, yeah, go on. Students, I'm just putting all of them in nutshell now. In case you haven't got it, some of the points again I'm researching. There will be one testing agency, already four now. See, there will be a national testing agency will be conducting all the exams for entrance, like the CET, IIT, JEE, and all that may all go, and it will be only national testing agency. Okay, as it appears now. And students will enroll either 3 year or 4 degree course, and the students will, after 1 year, the student gets a certificate. After 2 years, the student gets a diploma. If the student sticks on, he or she gets a degree. By 2030, the policy is to phase out single stream institutions in the favor of multidisciplinary institutions as a method. And NAP offers choice, chance, and change. It means you are taken a course by choice, or by chance if you get but in the process you find it is not your choice, but you can always change it. Okay, that's all. So the challenging is implementation. Yeah, next one. So yeah, next one, madam. Go on. So moving towards a higher education system, it is envisaged that vibrant communication scholars will be developed. Breakdown of harmful silos. Silos means sort of a walls built between different disciplines. And engineering students, we cannot think of taking them a music class in our engineering colleges because there is no scope for that. So let us divide. Let us break out all these silos, these the walls that we have built, and there should be open area for every student. Yeah, next one. Next one. Yes, moving towards a more liberal undergraduate education. As I have been telling you, 21st century practices will be where students ought to get more skills and also across arts, humanities, sciences, social sciences, professional, social engagement, and so on and so forth. Imaginative and flexible curriculum structures I have mentioned now 64 colossal arts, knowledge of many arts, or liberal arts. Liberal arts has given a lot of importance to this MEP. Okay. Next one. And moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy, and the more autonomous institutions will be coming up. There is nothing like affiliation system, and institutions will have autonomy to come up with their own curriculum, right? The way of teaching and so on and so forth to see that meet the requirements of the country, and also students become global professionals. Next one, please. And as I mentioned, curriculum pedagogy, assessment, and to support assessment again, pedagogy and assessment. We all move from the rote learning of facts and mechanical procedures, right? Evaluation will be guided by curricular objectives and overall. See, when you're teaching a course, it's very clear, like OBE, outcome-based education. When you teach a course, you should know as to why you are teaching this course. A student should know as to why he or she is being taught. So the outcome have to be very clearly mentioned, objectives should be mentioned. Open and distance learning will be expanded, given more importance. Strong and academic finance support will be given. Yes, next one. And for the reforming integrity of faculty positions, it will be, of course, we have been doing to some extent, the rigorous course of evaluation by students, institutional leaders, preparing institutional leaders through leadership training program. The idea here is to develop leaders, academic leaders. The whole thing is to develop academic leaders. So those people should go on to become vice chancellors, dean, directors, and so on and so forth. That is a basic idea that is, envisaged here. Next one, please. Establishment of, this is a very important one. Establishment of a national research foundation. Seed money, grow, facilitate research at academic institutions. There, as the concept goes, to give a seed money for you to grow it further, right? Colleges. Rising among researchers, ministries of government and industries in order to ensure the most relevant and socially useful research reaches the people as well. Our research or PhDs and all ultimately should have some social outcomes. We should not just end up in the university libraries or thesis and all that. Okay. Yes. And higher education institutions will be governed by independent boards with complete academic and administrative autonomy. How this the structure they have given, of course, with a lot of stringent conditions. Okay, next one, please. This is a very tricky one, light but tight regulation. Still, we need to understand what exactly they mean here. One regulator, it is thought that English and ASD are like us. Public disclosure of all the relevant information of higher education institutions will be enforced. We are doing it now, but all the colleges have to put all the details in the website. Much more emphasis will be given. Commercialization of education will be stopped, and the philanthropic efforts will be highly encouraged. Yes, next one, madam. This I already mentioned. There are three types. There will be three types: type 1 research universities, type 2 teaching universities, type 3 the colleges. Type 1 the research and quality teaching. Teaching universities more focused on high quality teaching, supported by PhDs and vocational courses. Third type focus on high quality teaching for undergraduate programs in addition to diploma and certificate programs. So there will be type 1, type 2, type 3 colleges. Okay, this is very important to us. Strategic, yeah, go on. Some of these things are very, very important areas they have identified, like AI, 3D machining, big data analysis, machine learning, and technology, right? Coming up areas. Exchange of credits between foreign universities and home universities will be permitted. You can sign MOS foreign universities. This is not allowed. Even today, I think it is not allowed. Dr. Prakash may give more light on this. The registrar will know better. Credits between foreign universities and home universities, right? We will be encouraged to sign MOUs with foreign universities, and the credits can be transferred. Over the next 15 years, colleges will be given graded autonomy to give degrees. Affiliation with universities will end in 10 to 15 years. By 2030 or 35, the concept of affiliation will cease to exist. Next one, madam. So go on, madam. Very recently, our Prime Minister made a few comments on our education policy. Yeah, press one more. He said it is all analysis based, discussion based, inquiry based, discovery based, right? And innovation adaptation are the key things. Education should be based on the culture of the nation. That's what our NEP focuses on. And the dignity of labor. At no point of time, anybody working in the field of education should feel low or should feel inferior. Therefore, there will be multiple entry, multiple exit in higher education. A student can join back again higher education at any point of time. He leaves now this year, maybe 1 or 2 years he comes back, and those credits will be accumulated, and then he will be allowed to pass on. He will be allowed to move on. Education based on futuristic technology. The Prime Minister was very clear on embedding the technologies, the coming technologies in our teaching, using of virtual labs, empowering the institution, dignity of teachers. We focus very much in this talk on the dignity of teachers. When the teacher learns, the nation leads. That is the statement he made. So the big syllabus and curriculum is not important, but the life skills are to be important to the students. Effective implementation of NEP is more important. And Prime Minister signed off in his speech. He said NEP is an yagna. That yagna means now it's basically sacrificing, devoting, worshipping for a noble cause. Because that is actually NEP. Next one, please. But with all this, there are dichotomies. Dichotomy means there is some confusion, right? Lots of them when you go through, you get a lot of doubts, right? Dichotomy means is a duality. On one side, we say our GR has to be increased, and the quality also has to be increased. And we have been seeing our experiences in our own classes. We see, right? We have students right from 40%, right, to 90%. Like there is something like equity and excellence. IITs and IITs are excellent institutions, whereas ours is equity education. Whereas in sense, in our colleges, students from 40 to 90% are given admission. In IITs, only top students are given admission. There, that is excellence. Whereas ours is quality, because we have more number of students coming into our colleges, so the quality may suffer. Therefore, the quality and the quantity, as it appears, right, very difficult to bring them on the same platform. When you have in a class of 70 students in a class, 75 students, I'm not sure how our teaching will be effective, right? And this is the attitude of the students also needs to be addressed. With all that, quantity and quality, right, is a big dichotomy. And again, the second one is light but tight regulation. In our country, always there is everything is on a fuzzy bone, right? Nothing is mentioned very clearly. On one side, it's very light, but on the other side, we say very tight regulation. These seem to be very contradictory to me. Therefore, this is to be addressed. And they say it's very imaginative and broad-based curriculum. Imaginative could be very focused. Broad-based, as you all of know, is the high bandwidth one. How they have to brought down on the same platform again is a challenge. Holistic versus personalization. On one side, say it's holistic, you should cover all of them, and at the same time, we say it should be personalized curriculum. For an individual student, you can come up with your own curriculum. Somewhere it is mentioned in the NAP. Yeah. And India centered versus internationalization. The basic vision statement itself says India centered education. India centered education, by and large, is to our country. How that will become internationalization is to be seen. How our freedom is got very relevant to us, but may be totally irrelevant to the other countries. Therefore, the internationalization, right, is to be properly defined in a general framework. Good faculty versus the management. The private management should also increase, and the good faculty and the management. All of us, who work in the private management, we know the difficulties that we have more so in this time of pandemic situation, and very ambitious and implementation. So it's very ambitious scheme. When you go through a big dossier on NEP, it is a very huge one, but implementation, right, is a challenge in our country because it is so very diverse, right? Therefore, it is being on the one platform is a big challenge for the academic leaders. Yes, next one. A lot of dichotomies exist. As you go along, you get it. Therefore, ultimately, I sign off with this statement. We must create the features we want, not wait for it to happen. That's what the NAP focuses on. The national education policy with the 9 galaxy of academic leaders have put the thought, the time, the collective wisdom into one dossier, what is called as national education policy, to see our children, our grandchildren will have wonderful education on the standards of foreign universities like MIT, Boston, Stanford, you name it. And a time may come, that those students will come to Indian universities and study here as it used to happen, it seems, about 1,000 years ago. With this, I sign off from here. Thank you very much. Right, I hand over to the organizers. Thank you very much. Yes, any questions or anything, madam?
If anybody is having any questions, you can kindly ask.
Good morning. I am Professor Vittal from NITK Surat.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful and elaborate and excellent presentation with very crisp idea of what is really in national education policy.
Thank you.
So I have one two specific questions. If you permit, I will start one by one.
Please, sir, one at a time. Yeah.
One of the question I have, because of the exit provisions given,
Yeah.
what will be the entry for ITI and diploma colleges which are all around across the country? That aspect with regard to technology education or technical education is somewhat having some confusion. Please tell me, sir, how will it happen in this?
Yeah, thank you. Very nice question, sir. Very relevant. Sir, I strongly think that these will continue as they are. NNIT and all those, they will continue as they are. All right. And the students who enter our engineering, for example, after 1 or 2 years, you also have seen you have been a senior professor, you know it, many of the students do drop out. Now, when they drop out, we don't give them any certification. They just go empty-handed. Correct. Therefore, after 1 year or 2 years, they drop out. They will be given some certificate, right? Maybe with a little more of training in a particular area, right? Make it equivalent to a diploma or ITI training, vocational training, and give these students, dropout students, go with some certification based on which they can have their living done.
So in that respect, I feel that we may have to map on with some curriculum of diploma college so that these people who go out should map on with what degree others are having with diploma in hand.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Thank,
right, sir.
thank you, sir.
Competency, yeah, competency skills. Competence is absolutely. Competency skills have to be mapped. What the diploma students will have, and our engineering proper students will have. There must be a competency mapping. Then only the equivalent can be given. Degree certificate or diploma certificates can be given. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm
Good afternoon.
SM Kulkarni from NITK Mechanical Department.
Good morning, sir.
It was very enlightening. You gave us a very good, crisp account of the entire NEP, National Educational Policy. So, thank you very much. And you also posed a lot of dichotomies, challenges. See, it is not a question, it's my impression. Generally, initially you said our mindset should change. Actually, we have two different mindsets for arts and for subjects separate. For example, if anybody learns science or mathematics, it will be like learning for exam. And if somebody learns music, it is for art. So my apprehension is that the exam trend should not come to music and arts, so that people just pass the exam but will not be able to play or sing. And if the other things comes to mathematics or science, it is very fine because they will enjoy what they are doing and they learn. But okay, of course, it is a dichotomy, and gradually the mindset should change. So, in fact, it was very nice listening to you. Yeah.
Sir, you pointed a wonderful, concept here because our this thing always has been more focused on the marks and marks and marks, right? Whereas arts, they love for the passion of it. They have the passion for learning, and the same passion does not exist in our technical one. So, as you rightly said, over a period of time, right, the passion, right, and the exam-oriented this thing has to be properly unified. So, it has to be properly synthesized and make sure that the same passion with which many people learn music that has to come to our technical field also, right? And here our mindset of our teachers and also students have to be properly modulated, right, with respect to time. Very, very, very relevant point, sir. So nice of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Bhagavan Deshpande. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
So, as far as NEP 2020 is concerned,
Uh-huh.
where it scores and where it falters, your opinion, sir.
Come again, sir.
Where it scores and where it falters.
Where it falls. Very nice. You put it the whole thing is very simple question. Where it starts. Hello.
where it scores.
I, and where it falters. So,
Absolutely, sir.
yeah. Sir, it scores in different ways. It scores in different ways. One of the things that I personally feel is the concept of removing this affiliation system. Sir, it does not exist anywhere in the world except in our free Asian countries. It does not exist anywhere. There is no question of a university existing. Say, for example, of BGO in Belgaum, affiliating 200 plus institutions throughout the Karnataka. It doesn't make sense physically, geographically, or whatever. Therefore, this disaffiliation or the now coming away from this affiliating concept, which the British, put it in way back in 1700, 1800 time, and this still we are continuing. The removing of the affiliation system will be a wonderful, the scoring point for any, and and making every institution responsible for their own standard of education. You cannot just live in isolation, or you cannot simply blame the university for having given this curriculum. That's what now we keep doing it now because the VT has given you a teaching aid. But now we cannot blame anybody, right? You have to score your own point, and you have to make sure that your students are capable of getting jobs whatever in the outside world after their education. So it is the onus is completely on the educational institutions, the faculty, the curriculum that is built up. Here exactly what the NEP scores. And another important point is bringing liberal arts and making it our institution multidisciplinary. I remember when I was doing my PhD in robotics, I took a course in Sanskrit, in Canada. So I
Okay,
got
sir.
some audit courses for that, which I cannot think of doing it in India. One of my students took a course in some foreign language. He got a credit for it. Right. So this sort of multidisciplinary campus has to come. This is another very very scoring point. Like this, we have quite a few of them. On the further part of it, Dr. Deshpande,
Yes.
I feel that this is quite ambitious, as I mentioned in my dichotomy, because the quality and the quantity seems to be mutually exclusive, in our present scenario. They don't exist together. They don't exist together. Either a head or a tail. It is not a head and a tail. It's a head or a tail. Therefore, bringing quality, right, into in a big system like ours is a challenge. And most of them, right, in our universities in India, such a diverse opinions, diverse secularism, right, different views, democratic systems, all sort of a khichdi that we have in our education system. Clearing it
Okay,
up
sir.
is a challenge. Is a challenge. And another important point is, which is very right to mention, where it falters, the private managements are not taken into consideration here at all, right? Where the faculty, hundreds of thousands of faculty work in private institutions, right? What happens if the managements don't live up to the ethical standards? At least as I have gone through, this point is not mentioned anywhere, if I'm not wrong. Okay, I've not gone through each and every sentence in that dossier, but in a cursory look, did not give me any idea as to what the precautions have to be taken, or putting it other way, what the faculty members have to be insulated from all these unethical and immoral values of certain managements do. This is not taken. I feel this is one of the faults of the NEP. Got it, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was wonderful, like in a talk. Really.
Yes, sir.
Anybody
Any questions,
else?
please?
So I hope sir has answered everyone's query. So I request our direct principal to present the vote of thanks.
Madam, you can close the presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes. It's close, sir.
Sorry for taking a little more time than what I was I'm sorry, sir. Principal? Hello?
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. It is a wonderful, and we have got the very much insight idea about the new education policy. In fact, it was a much awaited policy in India because the policy has done long back, and the traditional education system were followed everywhere. And some of the queries they also highlighted that the skill set and the center of excellence has to come out. Then only the education, whatever the education we are giving to our students, is a worth. So this is a much awaited policy, and it is going to be implemented. There's a mindset and
brain idea of the renowned people. Today we had a wonderful session webinar on regenerating the new education policy in India. Professor Dr. D.H. Rao has given a wonderful presentation, and a good number of participants have took part in this webinar. And on behalf of the Sridev Education Trust and our college behalf, I personally thank Dr. D.H. Rao for accepting our invitation to be a resource person for this. When we thought of conducting this workshop, only one name came into our picture. That is Dr. D.H. Rao. He was very closely associated and he has hold many positions in Vishweshwara Technological University. And we have seen you, sir, in the various capacity. That's what we have discussed, and our below director also pointed out this. Sir, I personally thank you for accepting our invitation to be part of this as a resource person for this wonderful webinar. Whatever the idea you shared today, it is definitely helping us a teaching community, and it is a stepping stone for the next level. Thank you for your wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you, sir. I also thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all.
I personally thank our director and former registrar of VTU, Vishweshwara Technology University, Dr. K. Prakash. He is always motivating us to organize such a wonderful webinar and conferences in the college. Under his able guidance, the Sridev Mission of Technology is elevating to a next greater height. I thank you, sir. Thank you. And I am very happy and delighted to be note that the professors from the renowned institute like NITK and various other prestigious institutions are taking part of this. More importantly, my teacher, Dr. S.Y. Kulkarni, sir, is also participating in this wonderful session. I thank all of you, sir, for your support which you extended for us during this webinar program. Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Dr. Netravati, convener of this program, because she is always a go-getter, and whatever the activity we are assigned to us, she will see to that it will be befittingly it was arranged. I thank Dr. Netravati.
I should really thank her, right, Dr. Netravati, for her continuous help in setting it up. Yesterday we tried it again.
That's
Because
true.
I am not 100% with that. Yesterday she was on, with me for nearly about 2 hours. She and Netra,
Okay.
Naitra,
Uh,
yeah, they were with me in setting up the whole thing. I should really thank them.
That's what I told her. Dr.
Hard
Netravati
work.
is a go-getter.
Yes, thank
Whatever the assignment you give to madam, she will get it done in a 100% perfect. And at the same time, I cannot forget one more person behind this. That's Professor Naina Yadav. She was a wonderful lady behind all this background work, all those things. I thank Professor Naina Yadav for coordinating this event. My
also
special
thank you,
thanks
sir.
to all the participants, because webinar can be arranged, and the person like D.H. Rao is coming and speaking to the people, renowned people, but participant is very, very important. So it is the more number of administrator and dean and the principals, they have attended this the program. It is a wonderful program. I thank each and everyone for this their participation in this program. I thank everyone for this their contribution for the success of this wonderful session. Thank you, one and all. And I cordially invite all of you to visit Sridev Mission of Technology whenever you finds time. Thank you, thank you.
When the corona is over, sir, when corona is over.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you,
all,
sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
bye. Good day.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
day, all of you.
Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
So you can disconnect. You can disconnect, sir,
Yes,
now.
yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಮತ್ತೆ ವೇಟಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಡಿ ಎಚ್ ರಾವ್ ವೇಟಿ ಇಸ್ ನೋನ್ ಕುಲಕರ್ಣಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಎಸ್ ಎನ್ ಕುಲಕರ್ಣಿ ಹೇಳಿ NIT ಕೇಳಿ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್